Hello, my gorgeous friends, and welcome back to Unstuck and Friggin' Fabulous, the podcast for ambitious women ready to ditch doubt, get out of their own way, and create a life that feels bold, beautiful, and fully aligned. I am your host, Irene Lidvall, confidence and mindset coach, and today it's all about love. We are going to continue on that path, and this is episode 69. And like I said, we are going to continue on talking about love because today we begin something special. A series that has been sitting on my heart for a while, and I am calling it the Reinvention Series, Becoming Her Again. And it's a series of 3 podcasts, so this is number 1. And I will release them every Thursday from now on and 3 Thursdays forward. And I have to excuse myself. I have a bit of a sore throat and a bit of a cold, but I hope we can manage. So, the Reinvention series I am releasing to you, Becoming Her Again, is not becoming someone new. It's not fixing yourself, and it's not becoming more worthy because you already are. And this is about coming home to you. Coming home to the woman underneath the pain, underneath the survival mode, underneath the heartbreak, underneath the role you've been carrying, and underneath all the versions of you that were built just to survive. We are done with that. We are not just surviving anymore. We are becoming her again. Because this series is for women who feel like somewhere along the way she disappeared. She's still functioning and she's still showing up. She's still doing what needs to be done. But deep down, she knows something is feeling off. Something doesn't fit anymore. And today, we start with the hardest part of reinvention, the ending. Because before there is a beginning, there is almost always an ending. And endings are uncomfortable as hell because we don't know what the beginning is going to look like because it hasn't happened yet. And what hasn't happened yet is scary because we don't know. We want to have control, right? Especially when life looks like fine on the paper, especially when nobody else understands why you feel so restless. And, also when you spend years building the life you now start to question. So if you're in a season where something feels like it's ending, it could be anything from a relationship, a marriage, a career, a version of yourself that you don't like anymore, a dream, a chapter. This episode is for you. So if that feels like it fits your season, take a breath and let's talk. Because I know this place. I know what it feels like when life no longer fits. When you wake up one day and realize you can't keep pretending. You're done. You don't want it anymore. Whatever it is, the role you're playing, you can't keep performing. You can't keep carrying something that is slowly killing your spirit. And here's the thing no one really talks about. Sometimes the hardest ending aren't dramatic. Sometimes nothing explodes. No one cheated, no one died, no one got fired. Sometimes you simply wake up and realize this life no longer feels like mine. And that truth can shake you to the core. Because now what? What do you do when the life you built no longer feels aligned with who you are becoming? That, my girl, is where reinvention begins. And most women hate this stage. Not just women, I think everyone. It's the unknown. Because this stage is messy. it is uncertain. It doesn't come with instructions. You don't get a 5-step plan for becoming yourself again. And if you're someone who likes certainty, control, plans, and structure, this stage can feel unbearable because transitions ask something from you. They ask you to release certainty. I say that again because transitions ask something from you. They ask you to release certainty. And that is scary as hell. And it's terrifying. And why is that? Because the brain loves what is familiar. Even if familiar is painful, it's familiar. And even if it's exhausting, it's familiar. And even if familiar is slowly destroying you, it's familiar. And familiar feels safe. The known feels safer than the unknown. That's why we stay. That's why we go back. That's why we don't rock the boat, which is exactly why women stay in jobs they hate, relationship that drains them, identities that suffocates them, because the unknown feels scarier than the pain they know. Let that sink in. Sometimes we stay in pain simply because it's familiar. That's powerful, my darling, and dangerous, because denial has cost, a big one. Denial sounds like, oh, I'm fine. I'm okay. Maybe I'm just tired. It's not that bad. And I should be grateful. And if you stay in denial long enough, what happens? You definitely will lose yourself. Not overnight, but slowly and quietly. And one compromise at a time, one ignored truth at a time, and one abandoned need at the time, until one day you look in the mirror and barely recognize yourself. And that is so bloody painful. But here's something I want to say very clearly. If you are in this season, do you think you're broken? No, you're not. You are waking up. There is the difference. You're not falling apart. You're becoming conscious. You're seeing what no longer works. And as painful as that is, it also is very powerful because truth changes everything. So now let's talk about grief, because reinvention always involves grief. Always. And most women don't expect that. They think a reinvention should feel exciting, empowering, fresh, Instagram worthy. But here's the truth. No, it does not. Real reinvention often starts with grief, because you're not just letting go of a situation, you are letting go of an identity. And that is worthy of grieving identities. You are grieving versions of yourself, the wife, the partner, the mother of your children, the career woman, the fixer, the helper, the strong one, the woman who held everything together. So sometimes we grieve identities we worked hard to build, and letting go feels devastating. I've seen women grieve after divorce, after betrayal, after children leaving home, after losing a business, after health changes, after menopause, and after burnout, and after losing a version of themselves they thought would last forever. Grief is strange, because sometimes you grieve things that weren't even good for you. It's a loss, and it's sometimes connected with failure, or not failure as per se, but you perceive it as a failure and you feel really crappy about it. And you can also grieve what you hope they would become. You grieve somebody's potential, and you grieve the dream or somebody else's dream, and you grieve the future you thought you were going to have. That hurts, really hurts. And healing begins when you stop resisting that grief, not fixing it, not rushing it, not bypassing it, but feeling it. Really deep down feeling it and allowing the grieving, allowing it to come up to the surface and honoring it, sit with it and really feel it, because grief is not weakness. It's actually something that people don't think about, but grief is love with nowhere to go. So honor your grief, because it is love that couldn't find a way. And there's something sacred about grieving honestly, because when you allow grief, you create space. Space for truth, healing, and something new. But most women don't want space. We want certainty. We want answers. We want to know exactly what comes next. And that brings us to the messy, messy middle. The place between no longer and not yet. No longer who you were. No, not yet who you are becoming. And wow, this place can feel brutal and so scary, because everything feels uncertain. You don't fully know who you are yet. You don't know what comes next. You don't know what life will look like. And uncertainty makes humans deeply uncomfortable. We crave control, but reinvention asked for trust, not certainty. Trust, my darling. Trust in yourself. Trust in your capacity. Trust that clarity comes through movement, not through waiting. And I know this is so hard, because when everything feels uncertain, the temptation is to cling. Cling to old patterns, people, identities, and safety blankets. Anything to avoid the discomfort of not knowing. But here's the truth. We cannot reinvent a life you are still desperately trying to hold on to. It's like saying, I want the cake and eat it, right? So what's left? If you've eaten it and you still want it, you can't have it because it's gone. So we cannot reinvent a life you are still desperately trying to hold on to. So we cannot receive what's next while gripping tightly to what's over. And at that point, you have to stop negotiating with reality. You have to stop trying to force dead things back to life. You have to stop bargaining with what no longer fits. And instead, you have to say, you sit back and you say, this season is over, and that takes courage, real courage, because acceptance is really powerful, not passive, but powerful. Acceptance says, okay, this happened. And yes, it has changed. And yes, it hurts. And I'm no longer fighting reality. I am facing it. That is strength, my darling. And maybe that's where you are today. Maybe something in your life has ended, or maybe it hasn't physically ended yet, but emotionally, spiritually, maybe, you know it. You know something is complete. Something no longer fits. Something is asking to be released. So let me ask you gently, what are you still holding on to? And what truth are you avoiding? It's a bit hard one, isn't it? Because sometimes we don't want to look at the truth. And what season is over and what no longer fits. Now sit with that. Be honest, not with me, with yourself. Because truth is where freedom begins. And here's what I want you to remember. An ending is not failure. An ending is not failure, my darling. Sometimes endings are wisdom, and sometimes endings are self-respect, and sometimes endings are growth, and sometimes endings are really love. Love to free the other person and the love to become something that you are longing for. Because sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop forcing what you no longer fits. And you then choose the truth, even when truth hurts, especially then. I know endings can be brutal. I know letting go can feel unbearable. And I know uncertainty can make you want to run back to what's familiar. But beautiful. The ending may not be the end of you. It may be the beginning of you, the real you, the woman underneath all the noise, the woman underneath survival mode, the woman who knows who she is, the woman who trusts herself, the woman who no longer abandons herself to keep others comfortable. Her. She's still there. She isn't gone. She's waiting. And this ending, this painful, messy, uncomfortable ending, may be the doorway back to her. So if you are in this messy middle right now, please take a breath. And you are not alone. And you don't need to have all the answers today. You only need honesty. One truth, one brave truth. And ask yourself, what is over? So what are you ready to stop pretending about? Start there. That is enough. Because next episode we are going deeper into the identity piece. Who you became to survive, who you had to be, and why so many women don't even know who they really are anymore. And trust me, my darling, this episode will hit home. Until then, be gentle with yourself, honor the ending, trust the process, and remember, you are not lost, you are becoming. And maybe, just maybe, you are on your way to becoming her again. And I root for you, and I'll see you in the next episode. And have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And if this hit a chord with you, or if you feel that you know somebody who needs to hear this, please share and don't forget to like.